Today we got a brand new episode. A renowned figure has been reported harassment accusations. And it is a legendary Twitch Dota superstar, an EG fanatic, a EG supporter, and it's GrandGrant. It is Grant. So in this episode, I'm going to explain the whole situation. I'm going to explain from the point of view of the young girl who was assaulted. Now, we just heard the latest rumors of what happened. Because of these accusations, GrandGrant was forced to leave the Evil Geniuses organization. He was removed from Esports. He was kicked out of the team. He's gone. He is done. His career is over.
They did it 4-0 in the bracket. They didn't even look like they were going to drop one game. It was an 80-minute game. They knew they were going to win. Haters, stay hating. You're not a TI. They are. Get out.
Ladies and gentlemen, before I get into the consequences, I will show you and I will reiterate the absolute horrific story. I will begin the story and I hope you guys read it with an open eye. I hope you guys are able to take in this story to the full effect and make your own decisions. The following is an account of what happened to a woman who was drugged and subsequently assaulted by GrandGrant Harris. Her wish was to remain anonymous. The following document has not been altered by me in any way and has been published with the explicit consent of the victim. Now, the person who releases this document was a friend of the victim. She was scared to show herself. She begins, admitting that I was a victim of assault is one of the hardest things I've ever done. It involves a lot of setting your pride aside, recounting every interaction, figuring out if it was your fault, and trying to convince yourself that you didn't deserve what happened. It took me years to come in terms with the fact of the incident I endured and was not fucking okay in any way. This story goes back 6 years ago when I first attended my TI4, the first LAN event. Now she begins the story to introduce her love for the game, and I'm pretty sure everyone can relate. I've been playing Dota for about a year and a half. I remember watching TI3 on my shitty MacBook in my childhood bedroom, losing my absolute mind during most of the games. I was yelling at the top of the laptop, jumping around my room, throwing my arms in the air. Immediately after the tournament ended, I decided that I needed to go to the next international. All I wanted was to feel the energy inside the arena, to hear the crowd in person instead of the caster's mic, and to witness every second of professional Dota that I possibly could. After TI3, I built my first computer and started streaming Dota. A few months later, Grant came into my stream. I had no idea of who he was, but I never really cared for his role or his friends. He was funny, he seemed cool, and our friendly conversation never reached to a point where I felt uncomfortable. I spent a few months leading up to TI4 to work my butt off, saving every penny so I could attend the tournament. I had plans to stay with a couple of other friends who were Seattle locals. I didn't know a single other person attending the event outside of them and Grant, but I didn't care. I was too excited about being in the arena full of people who loved the game just as much as I did. During TI4, I met up with Grant a few times and he brought me to the players and the hotel to hang out with, in the lobby, in the bar area. And of course I was floored, excited seeing all of these faces I had only ever seen online. Suddenly, all of these people were real, tangible. I was 21 years old and I was being introduced to professional players, casters, etc., playing the game for a fraction of the time that they had played. It was freaking cool. One day I met Grant and a few of his friends at their hotel. We were shooting the shit, hanging out, being one of the boys. We decided to pregame. Pregame means drink before the actual event, before going out to the night. Someone pulled out a fifth of a blueberry vodka and we started taking shots. We each took a few, then made our way to the bar nearby around 6 p.m. It was pretty cute. It was a pretty cute cocktail place with a few people there, and I ordered a whiskey mule. I received my drink and remember thinking it was really freaking good. Then everything went blank. Darkness. Boom. When I woke up, it took me about 15 to 20 minutes to gather my sense of where I was. I looked to my right, and Grant's friend was fully clothed, sleeping under the covers. The clock next to him read somewhere after 1 p.m. I looked to my left. Grant was asleep, shirtless, and above the covers. I looked down at myself, and I thought I was going to be sick. I was above the covers, my pants and underwear pulled down to my knees. My head was spinning, and I felt drunk. I slid down the middle of the bed and tried standing up. I felt as if I couldn't breathe. I finally stood up, pulled my pants up, and found the bathroom. I sat on the toilet, tried to control my breathing, closing my eyes, trying to remember anything from the night before. While peeing, it felt strange, a soreness that most girls can relate to. I felt my groin area and moved my fingers After a minute, I felt something inside of me. Pulling it out, I realized it was a tampon. I had totally forgot I was on my period. I let out a gasp of air, thinking it was okay, I have a tampon on. The string pressed oddly far inside of me, but I have a tampon in. Nothing could have happened, right? Okay. I started quietly crying on the toilet, gently reassuring myself that nothing could have happened, over and over for the next few minutes. I left the bathroom and was relieved that they were still asleep. My head was pounding and it was hard to see straight, and my heart rate was out of control. I had my phone, but it was dead. I scoured the room in the backpack I know I had with me in the cocktail before, but no avail. I felt my eyes tearing up again, frustrated by the fact that I did not know idea what the hell happened. I didn't know where my belongings were and couldn't leave without talking to Grant to find out. I don't remember if I woke him or if he woke up on his accord, but I told him my backpack was missing. He called the last bar we went to, and they weren't open yet, if I remember correctly, so we left and stopped for food. We had Greek. The entire time I was trying to play cool. I didn't know what happened. I couldn't find the grasp of reality, but I had all my limbs. It felt like I was moving through a dream. I asked what happened the night before, and he found it funny that I had no memory of it. I found out that not only that we had gone out to the NA Dota house, where people were playing Super Smash Brothers. And I asked Grant if I also played, which is a game that I'm very bad at. And he said, oh yeah, you played a lot, which made her mortified. Then, apparently, he said we had gone to 3 to 4 bars afterwards. I asked Grant if I had danced, and he said yes the entire time. I asked what time we got back to the hotel. He said 4 a.m. We went to the bar after, and then they had my backpack. I swear I had never seen this place in my entire life. I had no memory of it whatsoever. When we got to the arena, I thanked Grant for helping me find my belongings and met up with the other friends. I don't remember why or how I ended up back at the players' hotel with Grant and his friends later that night. The only reason I remember this is because I was actively trying to avoid one-on-one conversation with Grant and telling his friend, the one on the other bed of the covers, how uncomfortable I was about the situation. That if anything had happened, I hadn't intended for it, and I couldn't remember anything. He was kind and took the time to listen to me. I remember him being very comforting, but he never confirmed that nothing had happened. The next day, it was at the grand finals. I was back at a Seattle friend's house, and I couldn't even stomach the idea of going to the arena and potentially running into Grant. I watched the series from the French couch. Grant had texted me at last once before during the finals, but also sent me a text afterwards. He was at the after party hanging with two NA personalities that was asking where I was. He invited me, but I said I didn't feel well. I was too scared to go to the after party of my very first international because I couldn't bear the thought of being around him. After I returned home, I didn't tell anyone what happened. I could barely figure out myself. I thought maybe it was because I hadn't been eating as much. Maybe it was social anxiety. I was drinking on the near empty stomach. I tried to come up with every reason to ask what happened, without ever entertaining the idea of the worst case scenario, that someone was trying to take advantage of me. Grant contacted me via Steam a few times following, where I could have given short answers several times. He asked, do you know what happened that night? Always including a wig emoticon. And my response every time was, if something happened, I did not intend for it. I would feel more comfortable not knowing if something had happened. He would drop the subject and I wouldn't hear from him for another few days or so. Now this is very suspicious, ladies and gentlemen. She goes on to say, I stayed completely silent for about what had happened until I was driving home from home one night when my phone started buzzing like crazy. I glanced at it. I had Steam message from a few friends. I opened the message and then they're all basically saying the same thing. Hey, Grant is messed up on the stream right now, and he said that you were a bad lay. My heart entered my throat. My hands started shaking and I started sobbing while gripping my steering wheel, trying to make it home. The tampon had been my life raft. If it was the one thing within me that experienced that told me that idea had nothing had happened. And now it was gone. I got home and confided in those friends what had happened. I had never used any serious terms. I never used serious words like drugged or assault or not once did those words cross my mind. I couldn't fathom using them. Those were too serious of a word. I refused to admit that I was a victim. I just said, yeah, maybe you're right. Oh, yeah, okay. Looking back, I believe he thought that this would maybe spare me some grief. I spent a few months afterwards grieving the experience, overanalyzing it, trying to desperately come up with the viable excuses for what had happened, not wanting to blame anyone else but myself. I blame myself entirely. She goes on to have terrible situations about herself, and she was scared. She never intended to come out until she reached out to her friend. She then says, to this day, I don't even have the faintest glimmer of what happened between the cocktail bar and waking up the next day. I've tried extremely hard to remember for any hope that seemed to have happened, but there was nothing. It's blank. 10 hours of solid blankness. I'm still finding it difficult to accuse someone I trusted, who I thought was my friend at that time, of doing something to purposely hurt me. It's been 6 years. I've been mulling this over, and I still don't know if I would have ever felt comfortable sharing my story had the other woman not spoken up. The 6 years of silence scared the crap out of me. How others could have avoided similar experiences with him if I had simply talked about it was 1. I was too weak to admit what had happened, too scared of telling my Dota friends, and 3, too petrified of the consequences of being ostracized from the Dota 2 community. I felt that if I shared the truth about him, that my entire life would become a target for questioning, open for intrusive strangers to examine and retell as they wished. I think this speaks volumes of not only Dota 2 community's approach to women, but esports as a whole. For me, this isn't about condemnation or seeking revenge. If that were the case, I would have been better to mention the career we started off. This is about the healing process and accepting some bullshit that happened to me that I did not deserve. Now she goes on to speak about protecting herself. The reason why she came out was because she was scared. Her career, her life was around Dota 2. Grant was a big respected figure. Thousands of people followed him. Now, to accuse someone of assault, it goes beyond the scope of the game. And to this day, this lady, this poor woman, is petrified, scared beyond belief. Ladies and gentlemen, this story goes beyond our imagination. Ladies and gentlemen, the esports scene has been dented because of GrandGrant. That is despicable to do something to the ladies of this game and even to this world. You should not do such things. It is disgusting. It is despicable. He took advantage of a girl that was drunk. Many people are arguing and say, don't drink. It was her fault for drinking. That is not true, ladies and gentlemen. When you try to hang out, befriend someone, to join a crew or be part of the crew, you often do things that you don't often do. You often are looking to impress. You may take shots, and that causes, your brain to go out of sort. That does not give the right for anyone to take advantage of you. No, this is despicable. And I'm pretty sure this video will get taken down, but I do not care. That is, we should not treat our women or females like this. And this is Crystal's Chronicle. What do you guys have to say? This is the story of a lady who's been assaulted by GrandGrant. And I hope the consequences of what is to come gets properly done. Make sure you subscribe to this channel for more epic stories.